presented by the United States Air Forces in Europe.
I am the Whistler, and I know many things, for I walk by night. I know many strange tales hidden in the hearts of men and women who have stepped into the shadows. Yes, I know the nameless terrors of which they dare not speak.
And now, the Whistler's strange story. The doll's name was Suzy.
Laura Haven, 28 and attractive, and secretary-treasurer of the small but successful Kilby Stationary Company, was worried, and with reason. For unless she found the means to replace $4,000 of company funds she'd used in an unfortunate market venture before the stockholders' annual audit, scheduled within 2 weeks, she faced certain dismissal and prosecution for embezzlement. But Laura was still hopeful. Yes, you're certain you'll find a way to replace the money, just as you found ways to replace smaller amounts in the past. And at the moment, sympathetic Clay Hillman, plant manager and vice president, the man who gave you your start with the company 6 years ago, seems most likely to accept your carefully rehearsed sob story.
And that's the way it is, Mr. Hillman. I hated to come to you, but...
I wish I could help you save your father's business, Laura. You've made a fine record here, but I just can't. $4,000 is just beyond me.
I could probably get by on $2,500 if I had to. I could sell my stock in this company, sell my TV set.
That's still way too much for me personally, Laura. Just isn't possible. I'm terribly sorry.
Forget it, Mr. Hillman. I'll solve it some way.
I'm sorry about your dad's tough luck, Laura, but $4,000 is a lot of money. I can't think of a thing that might help.
I was wondering about Lester Cranston.
My boss? Surely you don't expect me to ask him.
Oh, of course not. I'd get his wife Ruth to ask him if you thought there was any chance of his letting me have it.
He probably would. He gives her everything she asks for, and she asks for everything.
I don't think that's fair, Monica.
That's because you don't know Ruth Cranston half as well as you think you do.
I think I know her pretty well. She's my closest friend. You talk as though you were in love with Lester.
Not me. Married men are out with me. Besides, Lester's a straight shooter, and that's more than I can say for Ruth.
What do you mean by that, Monica?
I mean she's no good. She goes out with other men.
I don't believe you.
I've seen her with one, more than once.
You, know who he is?
Yes.
You haven't told Lester?
I'm not telling anybody. Yet.
I'll get it. Hello?
Laura?
Oh, yes, Ruth. I was just about to call you. Excuse me a second. Ruth Cranston's on the phone now.
Then I think I'll drop in at the neighborhood movie on the corner. You two will be traveling for an hour. See you in the morning. Good night.
Night, Monica. Go ahead, Ruth.
Laura, can you meet me someplace right away? I've got to talk to you.
I'm alone. Can't you talk over the telephone?
No, I can't. It's too important. Oh, please meet me, Laura. It's only a little after 8. Please, Laura. I need your help.
All right. How about the Blue Oreo? We can talk in a booth.
I'll be there in 20 minutes.
Now, relax, lady, and tell me what's bothering you.
Well, first of all, everything's all over with Lester and me. I've left him. He's lost his mind completely over your cute little apartment mate, Monica Alston.
That's crazy, Ruth. I live with Monica. I know her.
Nobody knows her. She's only been in town a year or so. And Lester's not only fallen for her, he's let her get him involved in a diamond smuggling racket.
Oh, Ruth, you're imagining things.
I even found out how they worked the whole thing. Lester's firm imports a shipment of dolls from London every 3 or 4 weeks.
So?
And each shipment contains one special doll with 2 or 3 diamonds hidden in the doll's head.
Now, wait a minute, Ruth. Slow down.
It's true. Now, the sender in England always sends a telephone number and a password or a catchphrase along with the doll. Well, then Lester or Monica makes the phone call. A messenger picks up the doll later on. And then the next day, another messenger brings the money.
Oh, well.
Lester and Monica keep half of it and send the rest to the post office box in London. A different one each time.
You're certain of this?
Yes, I have absolute proof. This afternoon, I found one of the dolls in Lester's clothes closet.
Yes?
There were 2 large diamonds taped to the inside of the doll's head with heavy adhesive tape.
You're positive they were real diamonds?
Of course I am, Laura. And, Laura, I'm scared to death.
You? Why?
Because Lester came home unexpectedly today, and I didn't have time to put the doll back in his closet. And, Laura, when he saw me with it, why, he acted just like a crazy man. He said if I ever told anyone what I knew, he'd kill me. You've just got to do something for me, Laura. I'm desperate. And I'm afraid to go back home.
Well, what do you want me to do, Ruth?
Well, I want you to go to the house and get my overnight case. It's in the closet in my bedroom.
Why didn't you bring it with you?
Well, I intended to, of course, but I was so frightened I forgot it. I got dressed and I practically ran out of the house. Oh, I just got to have it, Laura. My rings and my billfold and everything.
Yes, but suppose Lester's there.
Well, he won't be. He's having dinner with Mr. Wilson. You know his business partner. But even if he comes back, it's all right. He knows you have a key to the house and that you're likely to drop in any time. You can just act surprised that I'm not there. And then find some excuse to go to my room. Oh, please, Laura.
Well, I'll
please.
try, Ruth.
Thank you, Laura. I knew you'd help me. I've got a bungalow at the Cliff Road Motel, and I'm registered under the name of Francis Tompkins. I'll call you in the morning.
When you reach Ruth's home, you find the house in darkness. As Ruth expected, Lester is out, the house empty. Within 5 minutes, you're back in your car, Ruth's overnight case safely beside you. Back in your apartment, you put it under your bed, decide to wait up for Monica. Confront her with what you've learned from Ruth. But when midnight arrives and then 1 o'clock, and Monica is still out, your curiosity overcomes you and you decide to open Ruth's case. Neither her jewelry or billfold are among the things she's packed. But you do find a doll. You quickly lift the loosely attached wig, remove the 2 strips of adhesive tape, and find under each a magnificent diamond. Then, as you hear the sound of Monica's key in the front door, you flick off your own lights and close your door. You're certain of only one thing, aren't you, Laura? Yes. You don't know just how, but those 2 diamonds are going to provide your $4,000, aren't they? Next morning, as you're preparing coffee, Monica bursts into the kitchenette with the morning paper.
Laura. Oh, Laura, something terrible happened last night.
Well, I'm not surprised. I wondered what kept you out so late.
Nothing happened to me. It was Ruth Cranston. She was killed last night.
Ruth? Killed?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, Monica.
It's right here in the paper. She was found in a bungalow at the Cliff Road Motel, registered under a phony name. Someone shot her during the night.
Monica's shocking announcement, tragic though it is, provides an unexpected opportunity for you, doesn't it, Laura? And you decide to say nothing to anyone about anything for the present. As soon as Monica leaves for her work, you phone Mr. Hillman at your own place of employment and obtain a week's leave from the office. Then you hurry to your room, re-examine the doll in Ruth's overnight case. A slip of paper tucked in the pocket of the doll's dress catches your attention.
Phone Lake 3201 at 11:45 a.m., May 21st. Ask for Mr. Earl White. Inform him the doll's name is Suzy.
It's exactly as Ruth said, isn't it, Laura? For nearly 2 hours, you weigh one idea against another. Then you reach a decision. You decide you'd be a sentimental fool not to take full advantage of this unexpected and accidental windfall. And at 20 minutes before noon, you walk 2 blocks to the drugstore and dial the Lake number.
Yes,
I'd like to speak to Mr. White.
this is Mr. White.
Mr. White, I've been asked to tell you that the doll's name is Suzy.
Thank you very much. You have the doll in your possession.
Yes?
Could you deliver it immediately, say in an hour?
Yes.
Then wrap it in a box addressed to Earl White. Leave it with the parking lot attendant at the corner of Fenton and Clarkson Streets. Tell him I'll pick it up a little later.
There's only one attendant?
Just one. If the delivery is proper and the doll undamaged, you may expect the messenger at 6 this evening.
Mr. White.
Yes.
I prefer you handle things a little differently this time.
Oh,
Address the envelope to Miss Wilma Jackson.
Wilma Jackson.
Have the messenger drop the envelope into the mailbox of apartment 4B
4B,
at 8874 Paxton Place.
8874 Paxton Place. Very well, unless unforeseen circumstances develop, delivery will be made as requested.
When you return home, you decide on one additional precaution, don't you, Laura? Instead of making delivery in person, you'll drive to within a block of the parking lot. Hire the corner newsboy to carry the package to the parking lot. You wrap the box carefully, place it in Ruth's case for added safety, and then carry it to your car. As you open the door of your car...
Hello, Laura.
Oh, Lester.
Yes, I stopped by your office. They told me you were here.
Why, I'm glad you came by. I just can't tell you how sorry I am about Ruth.
I still can't believe it. You didn't see Ruth last night, did you, Laura?
Why, no. I talked to her about 8 last night, but I didn't see her.
Then what are you doing with her overnight case?
Ruth asked me to pick it up, that's all.
You know she'd gone to the Cliff Road Motel?
Well, yes, she told me.
Let's go up to your apartment, Laura. Take a look inside that case. You've got some explaining to do. A doll and diamonds, huh?
Diamonds?
Oh, as if you didn't know. You're quite convincing, Laura. But I don't believe you.
Honestly, I didn't know what was in Ruth's case until you opened it just now.
Then you won't mind taking Ruth's case to the police, telling them everything that might help them?
Of course not. Why should I? I was on the way to the police when you got here.
Fine. I'll go with you.
You?
Yes, just as soon as I talk with my partner. I didn't want to go to the office today, so I phoned him and asked him to meet me here. That's probably Arthur now. Come on in, Arthur. You know Miss Haven, Arthur?
Of course.
Hello, Mr. Wilson.
Lester, the police are looking for you.
Oh? Well, I figured they'd want to question me. That's why I asked you to meet me here. I wanted to talk to you first.
Now, you don't understand, Lester. The police don't want to question you. They're out to arrest you. They think you killed Ruth.
They think I killed Ruth? Why?
Seems she called them last night, told them you'd threatened to kill her.
I don't believe it. It was somebody posing as Ruth.
I don't think so, Lester. You see, I did see Ruth last night. She told me the same thing, that
I'd threatened her life? Oh, why?
because she'd found out about your diamond smuggling with Monica.
Monica?
Yes, Lester. Ruth told me everything.
There wasn't anything to tell. Arthur and I have known for a week that our company was being used as a diamond smuggling cover-up. But neither of us knew which of our employees was involved. Yesterday afternoon, I accidentally discovered that Ruth was involved.
Ruth?
Yes, I'm sorry, but it's true. I got home a little early. When I opened the front door, Ruth was in the living room. She had one of our toy dolls in her hand, and she was quite flustered. The doll's wig was on the table, and Ruth had the diamonds in her hand.
She had no explanation?
None. She grabbed the doll, flew into a rage, and said she was leaving me and rushed upstairs.
Ruth told me a different version last night, Lester. A reverse version. She said she'd discovered the doll, but you'd hidden it. She also told me you threatened her life.
You seem pretty anxious to convince my partner I'm a crook and a killer, Laura. Why? Were you working with Ruth?
That's absurd. I told you I merely picked up her overnight case for her.
Well, the police will have to judge that story, Laura. Come on. We better go on down to headquarters.
I wouldn't go to the police for a few hours yet, Lester. You see, I think I know who killed Ruth. But I'd rather not say till I'm certain, and I'll need your help to catch him.
Well, I'll meet you later. I'll only be gone for an hour or so. They won't try to hold me once I explain I'm innocent.
I'm afraid they will. I'm afraid they'll also place a murder charge against you. They picked Monica up just before I left the office.
Monica, she's as innocent as a baby.
I'm sure she is. And if you do it my way, we'll have the right man by morning. But I do need your help. Isn't there someplace you could go for a few hours?
Well, I have a key to Charlie Evers' place at the beach.
Well, then you better get started. The quicker you're out of circulation, the better.
But I want to make certain Laura goes to the police.
Don't you worry about that. I'll see that she gets there. Then I'll drive out to the beach house and tell you my plans.
All right. All right, Arthur. See you in an hour or so.
Oh, please, Mr. Wilson, taking me to the police won't do anyone any good. I told you the truth about that case.
I don't think so. You were going to sell those diamonds for yourself. Let me see now. Address the envelope to Miss Wilma Jackson. Have the messenger drop it in the mailbox of apartment 4B at 8874 Paxton Place.
You're Mr. White.
Precisely.
Then Lester was telling the truth. You and Ruth were behind the diamond smuggling. Lester and Monica are innocent. You killed Ruth.
For a moment or two, the frightening realization that you're alone with the murderer of your friend Ruth Cranston leaves you terrified. Then as his voice penetrates your consciousness, his purpose becomes clear. He doesn't plan to harm you. He wants to make some sort of deal with you. You watch your every action, choose your words carefully, and gradually learn the real truth about Ruth Cranston and her 2-year association with Arthur Wilson in his almost perfect smuggling operation. Her callous scheme to throw suspicion on her husband Lester and his secretary, when it seemed the authorities were getting close to her own activity. How she'd phoned the police last night, even before she'd phoned you. Told them the same story she later told you at the Blue Oriole. How she'd planned to leave town, certain that when she failed to phone you, you'd open her overnight case, take the contents to the police, tell of your talk with Ruth, and provide irrefutable evidence that Lester and Monica were guilty of the diamond smuggling, leaving Ruth free to continue her criminal but highly profitable diamond operation. Finally, as your visitor pauses to light a cigarette.
Why did Ruth have to be killed last night?
Oh, Ruth was not only framing her own husband, she was planning to double-cross me with another man. Take over the operation. She had to be silenced.
Why are you telling me all this? I could easily go to the police.
You won't do that. You need money too badly. Otherwise, you wouldn't have phoned me this morning and offered to make a deal. I'm in a position to offer you a great deal of money. $5,000 for a half hour's work.
No, thanks. I don't want to end up as Ruth did.
No, you won't. This is quite safe. I simply want you to go to the police, tell them what Ruth told you regarding Lester. Turn over your evidence and advise them that he's hiding out at the Evers Beach house.
You expect me to help you frame my roommate and a completely innocent man for $5,000?
Why not? You can't possibly help them. The evidence against them is already ironclad. By now, I'm sure the police have found the gun that killed Mrs. Cranston. They'll also find it was Lester's gun.
You mean you talk like...
I mean, I only want your evidence as a clincher, so to speak. Now, can you think of an easier way to pick up $5,000?
You watch Mr. Wilson closely, and suddenly you get an idea, don't you, Laura? You're certain that in the long run you can outwit this man, and you make your decision quickly. You decide to accept his offer, secure the money vital to your own freedom, perhaps pick up a few additional thousands working with him during the next few weeks. Then you'll find a way to expose this man to the police and ensure the release of Lester and Monica, as well as safeguard your own future. You answer in exactly the right tone of voice.
You give me $5,000 just for going to the police?
And a lot more as time goes on, if you care to work with me.
When?
Just as soon as I read in the papers that our 2 friends have been arrested and charged with murder.
You wait about an hour, then walk down to police headquarters. Afterward, you return to your apartment and hear nothing for the rest of the day. But the following morning, when you open the paper, the story covers the front page.
Killer of Ruth Cranston captured. Husband picked up in beach house on information furnished police by late wife's friend. Killer further identified as diamond smuggler. Ballistics prove Cranston's gun, found earlier near scene of crime, was murder weapon.
You read and reread the story with mixed feelings and wonder how soon you'll receive your fee. A fee you must have to cover your personal shortage at QB Stationary and avoid prosecution for embezzlement. You wait nervously for some word from your associate. And a little before noon, your patience is rewarded.
Miss Laura Haven?
Yes?
My name's Frank Webb. I was asked to deliver this envelope to you.
Oh, well, come in for a moment while I see if it requires an answer.
Looks like you had a windfall.
Not the windfall I'd expected. There's only $2,500 here.
Well,
You'd better go back and tell your boss I expect the rest of the money he promised me within an hour.
The rest of the money?
Yes. And tell him if he doesn't send it, I'll do some talking. You know what you mean. Oh. Come in. You got my message, I see.
What message?
Let's not be coy, Mr. Wilson. You know what message. The one I sent for the young man who brought me your $2,500.
I didn't send you any money. I brought it.
But he handed me an envelope containing $2,500. Who else could have...
It could have been the police for all I know. What'd you say to him?
I told him to tell you if I wasn't paid in full, I'd do some talking.
You little fool. I should have known you'd mess things up. I thought you were clever. I suppose you mentioned my name, too.
No, I didn't. I just told him to go back to his boss.
Good. Then there's still time to prevent your ever mentioning it.
No, please. Wait! Help!
Now, what's all the excitement about?
Thank heaven you got here, officer. This man was going to kill me with that letter opener. He killed Ruth Cranston, too. He's Arthur Wilson, Lester Cranston's business partner.
Ruth Cranston?
Yes.
She's lying, Lieutenant. What reason would I have for killing my business partner's wife?
To keep her from talking, exposing you as a criminal. He framed Lester and Monica Elson, Lieutenant, and I helped him. They're both innocent.
You must realize how preposterous this all is, officer.
Maybe not. We'll find out. Meantime, you're under arrest for the attempted murder of Miss Haven. And we're holding you, too, Miss Haven, for investigation on the strength of Mr. Webb's statement. I've got a hunch that you're in this, too.
At least I'm alive.
You owe that to Mr. Webb here. He brought you that $2,500, and you told him you'd start talking if you weren't paid off in full. Became suspicious. Reported the incident immediately. Naturally, we got here as quickly as possible.
But that money, who sent it?
Better tell her, Mr. Webb.
I'm the nephew of Clay Hillman, Miss Haven. When my uncle read how you had the moral courage to aid the police in capturing Lester Cranston, he felt that you deserved the $2,500 you asked him for.
He said... just like him, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Instead of sending a check, he told me to get it for you in new $100 bills. He thought you'd get a thrill out of receiving it in cash.
Join us again next week when once again the United States Air Forces in Europe presents The Whistler. This is Air Force Sergeant Don Cormay speaking.
The Whistler. Presented by the United States Air Forces in Europe.
I am the Whistler, and I know many things, for I walk by night. I know many strange tales, hidden in the hearts of men and women who have stepped into the shadows. Yes, I know the nameless terrors of which they dare not speak.
And now, The Whistler's strange story. Dark Pattern.
Norma Wells paced nervously back and forth across the living room of her Bel Air home. Stopped now at the window to glance out into the night, the surrounding hills bathed in bright moonlight. Still and quiet, except for the barking of a dog nearby. And the barking stirs a strange, uneasy feeling within you, doesn't it? Something you can't explain. But it's there, building slowly. You whirl at the sound.
Yes?
Norma, darling, this is Gwen.
Oh, Gwen, how are you?
Splendid. The Allisons came out to pick us up, and we're all going over to their place for dinner. Will you join us, darling?
Gwen, if you don't mind, I'd rather not.
Is something wrong, Norma? You sound strange.
I don't suppose you've read the papers.
Oh, heavens, no. We've been much too busy gadding about. Why? What's happened?
It's Benjy.
Benjy? Your business partner?
Yes. There was an accident at Indian Lake last night. Benjy was killed.
Killed? Oh, good heavens, darling. Well, how in the world
He'd gone up there for the weekend, took his boat out on the lake, and there was an explosion.
Oh, darling, how frightful. You poor dear.
It was quite a shock.
Oh, but of course. You and Benjy were such good friends. What a perfectly awful thing to happen. Is there anything we can do?
Oh, thanks, Gwen, but no.
You're certain now? Harry and I'll be more than happy.
No, really. But it's sweet of you, Gwen.
A moment after you hang up the phone, you return to the window. The dog has started barking and howling again, hasn't he, Norma? Yes, and you wonder why. Is there someone out there? You move quickly to the sliding glass door leading to the patio. Open it. And you turn on the floodlight. Patio is empty. You step outside and glance around. And then hurry down the driveway. And you're suddenly aware that your heart is beating furiously. There's a tight, dry feeling in your throat, isn't there, Norma? Now, as you reach the road...
Hello there.
You recognize the man as Arthur Morris, a neighbor. And then he hurries towards you.
Good evening, Miss Wells.
Hello.
I don't know what's gotten into that dog of mine, howling that way. I'm sorry if he's bothered you. I put him on the porch again, but I don't know how long he will stay.
Oh, that's all right. Just that I was wondering...
He doesn't usually carry on that way. Unless there is someone around, of course. A prowler. Did you see anyone?
No, I haven't.
That's funny. Of course, it might be an animal down from the hills. An opossum, probably.
Yes, of course.
No need for alarm, I suppose. Oh, Miss Wells.
Yes?
Sorry to read about what happened to your partner, Mr. Sloan. I met him only once. The cocktail party you had last fall seemed like an awfully nice fellow.
He was.
Yes, Norma. You owe your entire success to Benjamin Sloan, don't you? A fine home, money, a string of smart fashion salons. You owe it all to Benjy, the partnership you formed with him. And now that he's gone, everything you have owned jointly will be all yours. As you're about to re-enter the house, you hear a car approaching. You turn, watch it pull up in the driveway. You recognize the man as he gets out. It's Fred Layton, the sheriff from Indian Lake.
Good evening, Miss Wells.
Good evening.
Had to make a business trip to L.A. I thought I'd drop in to see you on the way back to the lake. I brought you this, too. I figured it might be important.
Oh, yes. It's from our office files.
Found it in Mr. Sloan's suite at the lodge.
Yes, Benjy, Mr. Sloan often took a folder of business letters with him to the lake. Thank you very much.
That's okay.
Tell me, have you found him yet?
Afraid not, Miss Wells. We've had men dragging the lake since early this morning, but no sign of the body.
I see.
Strange. I was sure we'd have found him long before this. Yeah, strange. Very strange.
You watch the sheriff drive away, then turn and walk slowly into the house. There's been no sign of Benjamin Sloan's body, Norma. And that nervous, uneasy feeling within you continues to grow. You hurry to the telephone and call a Malibu number.
Hello?
Is Mr. Mason in, Ching? This is Miss Wells.
Oh, no, Miss Lake is out of town, Miss Wells.
I know, but he was to be back this afternoon.
Has not come back, Miss Wells.
I see. All right, Ching. Have him call me the minute he gets in, will you?
Yes, Miss Wells. We'll tell Miss Lake to call.
Something's wrong. You can sense it, can't you, Norma? You start pacing the room again, nervously twisting the handkerchief in your hand. The dog is barking again. And then suddenly you hear something else. A noise out in the patio. Quickly you turn off the living room lights. Stand in the darkness for a moment. There's someone out there, Norma. Yes, a man. And you can see him moving toward you. You want to turn and run, but you can't. You can't move at all.
Norma? Norma, you in there?
Oh, Rick. Tell me, Rick.
What's the idea of turning off the light?
Come in. I heard a noise. Didn't know who it was. Why haven't you called me?
I just got back from the lake. I was coming here when I saw the sheriff's car turn into your driveway, so I drove down a block. Walked back. What did he want?
Just brought some business letters Benjy had taken with him to the lake.
Oh.
He also told me they've been dragging the lake, and they haven't found Benjy's body yet.
Yeah, I know. That's why I stayed up there as long as I did. Don't worry, they'll find it soon.
Are you sure?
But sure, I'm sure. Look, everything went just the way we planned. I set up the booby trap, saw Benjy take the boat out, saw the explosion. Everything is okay, Norma. Nobody could have survived that explosion.
Then why haven't they recovered the body?
I don't know. Give them time.
I don't like it, Rick. I don't like this at all. Something's wrong.
Now take it easy, Norma.
Suppose Benjy is alive, Rick. Alive. And he suspects we set that trap for him.
Now, for heaven's sake, stop talking like that.
I can't help it. I just can't help feeling that he's alive.
He couldn't. I tell you, Benjy couldn't have survived that explosion.
All right, Rick. All right. Perhaps I'm mistaken. My nerves play strange tricks sometimes. You're right. Benjy couldn't be alive.
Oh, I saw it with my own eyes, the explosion. It happened in the middle of the lake. He couldn't have lived through it.
I'm sorry I got so upset. Now, come on, let's have a drink.
Yeah, I could use one.
Sure. We'll have a drink, Rick. Forget Benjy. There's nothing to worry about.
But there is, Norma. Yes, a lot to worry about. You can't explain the feeling you have that something is wrong. But you know you've got to calm Rick. Show him you're not afraid, that everything's all right. Long after he's gone, you think about what's happened. Try to convince yourself that perhaps it really is only your imagination, because your nerves are on edge. Still, you spend a sleepless night, aware of every sound outside, wondering, waiting, watching. Early the following morning, you get into your car and drive up to Indian Lake, to the sheriff's office.
Well, good morning, Miss Wells.
Good morning.
Glad you're here. Sit down, please.
Thank you.
I was about to call you.
Oh?
Yes, we found Mr. Sloan.
Oh, you have?
Men recovered his body less than an hour ago.
I see. You're certain, of course, that it's...
Positive. Found all the identification we needed on the body. I don't suppose you'd want
No.
Tell me, Miss Wells, did Mr. Sloan have any enemies?
Enemies? Benjy?
Yes, you see, a guest at the lodge just returned from a hunting trip up into the mountains. When he heard about Mr. Sloan's accident, he came straight to us.
Oh?
Seems he happened to see someone hanging around Mr. Sloan's boat on the night of the accident, acting suspiciously. He didn't think too much about it then, of course, but when he got back this morning, heard what had happened.
You mean you think that perhaps it wasn't an accident, that someone deliberately planned to kill Mr. Sloan?
There is that possibility.
Oh, but that's incredible.
Perhaps. Still, if we could find the man who was seen hanging around the boat...
You have a description of him?
Oh, a vague one, yes. Kirkland thinks he might recognize the man if he saw him again.
Benjamin Sloan is out of your way, isn't he, Norma? You're certain of that now, and that's a relief. But there's something else to worry about. Rick. Yes. He was seen near Benjy's boat on the night of the accident. And there's a man who can perhaps identify him. A few minutes later, you leave the office. The sheriff walks with you out to the street.
Going to stay on here at the village for a while, Miss Wells?
Yes, I'll be checking in at the lodge, if I can be of any help to you.
Oh, incidentally, I talked with Mr. Sloan's brother this morning over the phone.
Frank?
That's right. He gave me a list of some of Mr. Sloan's friends, acquaintances.
I see.
He didn't seem to know very much about his brother's activities, however. He said they hadn't seen one another too often during the past several years.
Yes, that's true.
Nothing wrong between them, I suppose.
No. They were on the best of terms. It was just that, well, they had different interests, and Frank did spend a great deal of time back east.
He mentioned that. Anyway, here's a list of names he gave me, mutual friends of theirs. Think you could add to it, Miss Wells?
May I ask what this list is for?
Oh, we're just checking. That's all. Routine. Like to talk with some of these people, see if we can dig up something.
You really think that Mr. Sloan's accident wasn't an accident, don't you?
As I said before, Miss Wells, it's a possibility.
You spend the greater part of the day in your room at the lodge, thinking over your next move, don't you, Norma? Wondering how much the police really know, if the sheriff has told you everything. And then, late that afternoon, there's a knock on your door.
Hello, sweetheart.
Rick, what are you doing here?
Well, you don't seem very glad to see me.
Come in.
I heard about Benjy on the radio. That's why I drove up here, to be with you. Come on, smile. Everything's okay.
Get away from me.
What's the matter, honey?
You.
Me? What's wrong with me?
Everything. Someone saw you hanging around Benjy's boat the other night.
What? Oh, that can't be.
Take the sheriff's word for it.
Someone saw me? Oh, wait a minute. I better get out of here.
As fast as you can, Rick.
Well, this isn't good. Not good at all. I'm in a jam, huh? But what am I going to do, Norma?
Now, take it easy. They don't know who you are. They just have a description.
Yeah, but if they start checking...
I know. You'd better get back to Malibu right away.
Look, Norma, you're going to stick by me, huh?
Of course. We'll figure something out.
Sure, we'll figure something, Norma.
Now, go on. We'll talk this all out later.
Okay, but when, Norma?
Tonight. I'll be at your place in Malibu around 9 or so. Rick, it's Norma.
Hello, Norma. Come in.
King is...
King's out for the evening. I sent him out so I could talk to you alone. This is serious business, Norma. Sit down.
Rick, I've been thinking things over.
Have you, Norma? Well, so have I.
What does that mean?
Here. Maybe you better look at tonight's paper. The story is on page 1 about Benjy.
So?
So there's nothing there about a witness, see? Nothing about someone being seen around Benjy's boat.
The police know what they're doing.
Really, Norma?
What are you getting at?
You said you'd been thinking things over. What are your plans?
I think you'd better leave town, Rick. I'd suggest Mexico.
Yeah, sure. That's exactly what I figured you had in mind.
What do you mean?
Get out of town, the lady says. The cops are looking for you.
They will be.
Who says so? You.
Look, Rick, I'm only telling you what the sheriff told me. Someone saw you hanging around Benjy's boat. It's the truth.
Is it, Norma? I think you're lying.
What?
I think you're taking me for a ride, see? Sure, you're crazy about me, so I do your dirty work, get rid of your partner so you can have the business all to yourself. Only I think you're springing, little old Rick.
I don't follow this at all.
Like I said, I do your dirty work, and then you dream up a little yarn to scare me out of town.
Why would I do that?
Maybe there's another guy you're interested in, huh? Harry Grayson, maybe?
Harry Grayson? Don't be a fool. Gwen's my best friend.
Oh, sure. As if that would stop you. Is it Harry?
Rick, you're talking like a child.
Am I, Norma?
Rick, listen to me. I'm not making all this up. What I've told you is the truth. Someone did see you hanging around Benjy's boat. Someone who might be able to identify you.
Sure. So now I'm supposed to clear out. Mexico, huh?
Play it safe, Rick, please.
Sorry it won't work, Norma. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here.
You're being a fool, Rick. Now listen to me.
Save your breath, Norma. I'm staying right here.
It's no use, Norma. Rick has made up his mind. Thinks you're going to double-cross him, and he refuses to listen to you. You drive on back to your home to think things out. It's only a matter of time before the police get around to him, and then it'll be all over. You're certain that Rick will crack, tell everything. And that's something you've got to prevent from happening. There is a way, isn't there, Norma? Yes. And suddenly you realize how little Rick actually means to you. Rick was only a means for you to get what you wanted. And now that you have it, he's no longer important. It's on your mind all that night, what you must do. But the following morning, you receive a telephone call from Sheriff Layton.
Do you happen to know a man named Regan, Miss Wells? Mike Regan, used to be Mr. Sloan's chauffeur.
Why, yes, but Mr. Sloan fired him quite some time ago.
Regan, as I understand it, was pretty sore about that. He threatened Mr. Sloan.
Yes. Now that you mention it, he did.
Regan was seen hanging around Indian Lake by several people on the night of Mr. Sloan's accident.
He was?
Yes, and the description we have of the man seen near the boat fits Regan pretty well.
Well, I don't know what to say, Sheriff. I wouldn't want to throw suspicion on anyone unfairly, but Regan was frightfully angry when Mr. Sloan discharged him. Regan said he'd get Mr. Sloan if it was the last thing he ever did.
Any idea where we might locate him?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. You see, after Mr. Sloan fired him, Regan came to me and asked me to help him find a job. I felt sorry for him and told him I'd see what I could do.
Did he leave an address with you?
Yes, he did. The Arch Motel, Ocean View.
Well, hello, Norma. What brings you around this afternoon?
Mind if I come in? I've got some news.
Come in.
I got us off the hook, Rick. Completely.
You sure?
Positive. Remember Mike Regan, Benjy's chauffeur?
Regan?
Yes. Sheriff Layton called me this morning and told me Regan was seen at Indian Lake the night of Benjy's accident. Well, that was all I needed.
What do you mean?
I gave the sheriff a story that will convict Mike Regan for Benjy's killing as sure as if he'd done it.
But Norma,
I told him Regan had threatened to get Benjy if it was the last thing he ever did. It adds up beautifully, Rick. Someone saw him near the scene of the accident. His reputation's not too good, and my story supplied the motive.
You're certain you're in the clear now, aren't you, Norma? You and Rick. Yes, because a man named Mike Regan was seen at Indian Lake on the night of Benjamin Sloan's accident. And now that you've told the sheriff your little story, you're certain that Regan will be picked up by the police because they know that he had threatened Sloan at one time.
Norma, do you think they'll find Regan?
I'm sure of it.
Well, I've got to warn him.
Warn him? Wait a minute, Rick.
Look, Norma, that accident I said I rigged up, the booby trap on Benjy's boat, I didn't do it.
What?
I wanted to, Norma, for you, but at the last minute I lost my nerve. I couldn't go through with it. I couldn't. I didn't want to tell you because of what you'd think of me, that I was soft, weak. But I am, Norma, I am.
What are you trying to tell me, Rick?
I knew how much Regan hated Sloan, so I hired him to do the job.
Oh, you fool! You stupid fool!
Okay, so now I've got to get to Regan and warn him. The cops grab him, he's liable to spill everything in there.
Rick, what's the matter? What?
Oh, Miss Wells. This, I gather, must be Rick Mason. I'm Sheriff Layton, Mr. Mason, and this is Lieutenant Kincaid. Are you going somewhere?
Why, yes.
If it's Regan you want to see, we'll be glad to take you to him at police headquarters. He told us the whole story.
Join us again next week when once again the United States Air Forces in Europe presents The Whistler. This is Air Force Sergeant Don Cormay speaking.
The Signal Oil Program, The Whistler. whistle is your signal for the Signal Oil program, The Whistler.
I know many things, for I walk by night. I know many strange tales, hidden in the hearts of men and women who have stepped into the shadows. Yea, I know the nameless terrors of which they dare not speak.
Yes, friends, it's time for the Signal Oil program, The Whistler, rated tops in popularity for a longer period of time than any other West Coast program in radio history. And Signal gasoline is tops, too, tops in quality. It takes extra quality, you know, to give you extra mileage. And Signal is the famous Go Farther gasoline. So look for the Signal circle sign in yellow and black that identifies friendly dealer-owned Signal stations from Canada to Mexico. And now the Whistler's strange story. Stranger in the house.
Helen decided she might as well be honest with herself. The suspense was getting her down. But if she didn't find out one way or the other pretty soon, something was going to snap. It had been over 6 years since her foster brother Ted had left for the Orient on that government mission. And he was still out there, somewhere between Manila and Shanghai, alive or dead. It was a terrible thing to admit even to herself. But she was even wishing now for any kind of message, even one stating Ted was dead. At least it would end the waiting. At least it would be better than not knowing at all.
George, please. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Ted's been on my mind for so long now that I wish I could forget about him for a while.
I'm rather surprised to hear you say that, Helen.
Oh, I know it sounds terrible, but... George, it's been 6, almost 7 years of waiting and not knowing.
Yes, I know, Helen.
I can't stand it much longer, George. After all, he's my foster brother. Don't you understand? All these years of silence. If they'd only tell us something.
You must realize there are a lot of women like you, dear. It's just one of the terrible things about the aftermath of war, that's all.
Let's just wait, then. Let's not talk about him anymore.
I'm your lawyer, Helen. There are some things we've got to talk about.
All right. Go on, George.
Well, it's been almost 7 years now. If we haven't heard from Ted in another 4 months, he'll be declared legally dead.
What does that mean?
There's a clause in your foster father's will, Helen. When Ted dies, the entire estate goes over to you.
Why must you always throw that will in my face, George? Why must it always come around to money, money, money? Every time we talk about Ted, it's the same thing. I don't care about the money. All I care about is having him back alive and well. Now, please go, George. If it doesn't have to be settled till September, let's not talk about it till then.
All right, Helen.
Oh, George.
Yes?
I'm sorry I blew up. I guess I'm just not myself.
Sure, Helen. I understand.
Yes, Helen, the suspense is beginning to tell on you, isn't it? Almost 7 years of it. Just a few letters from Ted early in 1941, telling you of his arrival in Manila. Then silence. No way you could get in touch with him. Nothing you could do but wait. And you're still waiting, rushing out to meet the postman, hoping each day will be the big one. George is more tactful now about the will. He doesn't mention it anymore, and you're very grateful. And then at long last, the suspense is ended. It's not the postman. It's Rhoda, your maid, walking into your bedroom one morning with a cablegram.
When did it come, Rhoda?
Just this minute, miss. A messenger brought it to the door.
Arriving June 4th, Seattle steamer President Jefferson. Love, Ted.
Oh, at last. Oh, Miss Helen, Mr. Ted coming home at last.
Yes.
Yes, Rhoda. At last. Pardon me? Oh, I beg your pardon. Stuart? Oh, Stuart.
Yes, miss?
I'm looking for Mr. Ted Van Norton. Where is his cabin, please?
Just a minute, please. Van Norton. Stateroom 3C, third deck.
Thank you.
Come in.
Ted, darling.
Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry. I must have the wrong stateroom. I'm looking for my brother, Ted Van Norton.
Oh, what's the matter, Helen? Don't you recognize me?
What? Who are you?
Well, this isn't much of a homecoming after 6 years. Maybe I better introduce myself. The name is Theodore Van Norton.
Oh, there must be some mistake.
Helen, darling, you're joking.
Who are you?
Well, I've already told you. I'm your foster brother, Ted Van Norton.
You're not Ted. You're an imposter.
With the prologue of Stranger in the House, the Signal Oil Company is bringing you another strange story by The Whistler. But now, important news for drivers. The amazing new type tire by Lee of Conshohocken, which is being announced this month in the Saturday Evening Post, is already at your Signal dealers. I'm referring to the new 8-rib Super Deluxe Lee tire. Not just a new model, mind you, but a completely new tire. You can see that the handsome 8-rib tread is wider and flatter, and there's more rubber in it. But not until you drive on these new type tires can you appreciate their easier turning and steering, and the way they absorb road shocks, sparing you fatigue and sparing your car unnecessary wear. In addition, quicker stopping and greater protection against skidding are assured by the 16 cleaning edges on Lee's broad, flat tread. And when it comes to wear, these new Lee Super Deluxe tires are setting records so amazing they're almost unbelievable. Yet all this extra quality is yours at no extra cost. In fact, right now, as their summer driving special, Signal dealers are offering extra generous trade-ins on old tires, plus liberal credit terms. So before you buy any tire, see your Signal dealer. Find out how little it will cost you to enjoy real safety and comfort this summer with new 8-rib Lee Super Deluxe tires. And now back to the Whistler.
Stand there in the stateroom and stare at him. The effrontery of this stranger trying to pass himself off as your foster brother leaves you at a loss for something to say. True, he does resemble Ted. He's tall, the same build, the same athletic poise, the same general features. But the expression, it's not quite Ted, is it? That's funny, isn't it, Helen? Perhaps he thinks it's funny in a different sort of way. Perhaps he's one of those people with a perverted sense of humor, a practical joker. Yes, it's hilarious, isn't it? To pull a trick like this after all those years of almost unbearable suspense.
Well, darling, hadn't we better get a move on?
Are you stupid enough to think you can get away with this?
Get away with what?
If this is some crude attempt at humor, I don't...
Oh, I'm quite serious.
Where's Ted?
Oh, do you have to be that way? I explained once.
Don't lie to me. Where is he?
Excuse me a moment. Oh, Stuart.
Yes, Mr. Van Norton.
Would you take care of my hand baggage, please?
Yes, sir, right away.
Thanks. Come on, Helen, let's get down to the dock.
I'll call the purser.
Wait a minute, now look. See, passport with fingerprints and photographs, birth certificate, State Department credentials, letters from you.
They're forgeries.
I'm sorry, they're genuine.
You're not going home with me. I won't stand for it.
Very well, darling. I'll check in at a hotel for the time being.
But after all, you can't keep a guy out of his own home, can you?
George, I've never been so stunned in my life. He just stood there smiling at me, saying over and over that he was Ted.
Oh, wait a minute. You say he had identification?
Everything. Even letters from me. I wrote them when Ted first arrived in Manila.
Were they genuine?
Oh, I think so. You're my lawyer. Do something.
He'd know better than try to get by with forgery. Helen, you're sure you're right?
George, you don't think I know my own brother?
Oh, but it's been close to 7 years. He's probably been in prison camp. That can make a lot of difference in a man's appearance.
But it's not entirely a matter of appearance. It's the way he walks, his voice, his mannerisms. Besides, Ted's dead.
What?
Something terrible's happened, I'm sure of it. This man might have killed him. Yes, that's it. So he could get his hands on Ted's money.
That's a pretty serious charge, Helen. You've got to be sure of yourself. You're the only one in Seattle who can recognize him. Remember, he's been gone for 7 years. Do you have any pictures?
No, I thought of that. No. No, there weren't any. Not since he was a little boy. Spent most of his time in the East with Aunt Ida.
Well, where's she?
She died some time ago.
Well, there are a lot of ways we can check on him. The State Department ought to know about him. He's been with them for over 10 years. You say he's stopping at a hotel?
Yes.
You know, of course, that if he can prove his identity, he has a legal right to live here in this house.
I tell you, he's a flagrant imposter. He's not coming here if I have to hire somebody to throw him out.
Who is it?
It's Rhoda, miss. Oh, what time is it? After 8. Oh. Go away. I'm sleepy.
I must be in it.
All right, Rhoda, come in. Now, what is it?
It's that man, Mr. Van Norton.
What? Where is he?
He's in the guest bathroom, miss. Shaving.
Give me a home where the buffalo roam, where the deer... Well, good morning.
What do you think you're doing?
Shaving, morning ablutions. Can't say I'm used to having ladies barge into the bathroom.
Get out of here.
Can't play.
How did you get in?
Well, I couldn't get a room at a hotel, so I took a taxi up last night. Walked in the back door. It was open, you see.
You can leave the same way you came in.
Oh, no, I'm here to stay, sister dear. I've got the proof in my pocket. And if you want to get me out, you can trot right down to the Hall of Justice and get yourself a court order. Have some more coffee, Helen.
No, thanks.
Hot cakes?
Mr. Whoever you are.
Van Norton. Name's Theodore Van Norton.
I must say, I've never seen such colossal nerve in my life.
Oh, you flatter me.
You're not at all concerned about the servants?
Should I be?
Aren't you afraid they'll fail to recognize you?
Don't be silly. None of them were here when I left. Edward the butler was last to go, I think. Oh, by the way, Helen, whatever became of old Edward?
There are other people in town, of course. What about your teachers at Washington Heights School?
Why, Helen, I believe you're trying to trick me. You know Father sent me to Foxhall Academy when I was 14. I never went to Washington Heights.
No.
Where are you going?
You seem to know everything. Why don't you tell me that?
Helen, we have some talking to do, darling. About the will. Father's estate left all of it to me, you know. Seems to me the executor owes me close to $1 million.
You knew it was coming, didn't you, Helen? That's the purpose behind this whole crazy business. It's still inconceivable to you that the man can actually expect to get away with it. George was right. There are 1,000 ways you can check up on him. and the imposter himself just gave you an excellent one. You make a long-distance call to the Foxhall Academy and talk to Mr. Rigby, the headmaster.
Why, yes, of course, Miss Van Norton. I'd be delighted to come down tomorrow afternoon. Ted was always one of my favorites, you know. Any special time?
What about 2 o'clock?
Fine. It'll be quite a reunion, won't it?
Yes, indeed, Mr. Rigby. Quite a reunion. Mr. Rigby, this is George Chadwick, my lawyer.
Mr. Chadwick? How do you do, sir?
Would you like to wait in the living room, Mr. Rigby? I think Ted's out on the tennis court. We'll call him.
Thanks.
Come on, George. Excuse us, Mr. Rigby.
Of course.
You still think I don't know my brother?
No, I never said that, Helen. I only said 7 years can make a lot of difference. You yourself said his general features were the same.
I'm afraid Mr. What's-his-name is going to suffer a little embarrassment.
You think Rigby will recognize him?
He'll recognize him as an imposter, if that's what you mean. He knows Ted as well as I do. What's the matter?
I don't know. I had those documents checked, the hospital records in Manila. He was a patient there for...
I tell you, he's a fraud. Heaven knows what's happened to Ted or how this crook got hold of his papers,
All
but
right, Helen. You'd better go and call him. Hello, sis. What's up?
I was sorry to interrupt your tennis game. Ted?
Oh, it's Ted now, huh?
Why, of course. I could have been mistaken, you know.
Well, can't say I expected this.
I'd be a little foolish not to admit it when I'm wrong, wouldn't I? Come on, dear.
Where to?
Just to the living room. You can go back to your tennis in a moment. Oh, there you are, George.
Hello, Ted. Hello, George. What's going on around here?
We're going into the living room, George. Perhaps you'd like to join us.
Yes, of course.
Well, open the door, George.
Oh, sorry. Say, what's this all about? Rigby!
Ted! Teddy, old boy, how have you been?
Oh, you old son of a gun. What is this, Helen, a surprise? Why don't they tip a guy off when his old headmaster comes to see him?
Oh, you're looking fine, Teddy.
Yeah?
Good Lord, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Last time I saw you was after the Washburn game, remember?
Yeah, at Spokane. Sticky was there, too. Say, do you remember the bus broke down that night outside of Wenatchee? You and I...
You stand there stunned, speechless, just staring at them as they slap each other on the back, forgetting all about you. And George avoids looking at you. He's on their side now, you're sure of it. And worst of all, it's beginning to get you, too. He's not Ted, your foster brother. You know it, you're positive. It's ridiculous to go through all this rigmarole, but it seems to be your word against his proof, doesn't it? But there are still other ways, aren't there? Like another long-distance call, this time to the State Department in Washington, D.C. After being transferred to 4 or 5 different offices, you finally get through to the right man.
It's important that you check this matter thoroughly. I'm positive that the man representing himself as my foster brother is an imposter.
You say you were with Mr. Van Norton when he filed his original application here in 1938?
Yes. I saw him attach his photograph and fix his fingerprints. I simply want to see that application.
I'll forward the file to our Seattle representative. You can check it there. Will that be satisfactory?
Quite satisfactory, thank you.
I see. You say the file was forwarded here from Washington?
That's right. I simply want to examine it, particularly the photograph.
Excuse me a moment, Miss Van Norton. I'll have to look it up.
Well, George.
Well, what?
I can't say that I'm pleased with your lack of faith in me.
Well, who said anything about that?
Oh, it's clear enough.
Look, I'm a lawyer. I'll believe black as white if they throw enough evidence at me. Mr. Rigby was a very convincing witness.
He's a decrepit old fool who has been 15 years.
I thought he was an intelligent man.
He passed you off as my brother. He'd forgotten what Ted looks like.
I don't know. You might be arguing against yourself.
What do you mean?
You haven't seen Ted in almost 7 years.
Don't be ridiculous.
Here we are. Theodore H. Van Norton. Now, what did you wish to see?
Here, let me see it. Medical examination, education record, application. Where's the picture?
On the other side.
Oh, here.
Satisfied, Helen?
It can't be.
I saw Ted paste the picture on himself.
Is something wrong?
Of course there's something wrong. This isn't Ted's picture. It's that man.
Helen, get hold of yourself.
What? Here, let me see. Yes, here they are, fingerprints. Now, listen, clerk. I want this whole record sent to the office of the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Helen, you've got to have a rest. This thing is getting
That's
you.
one thing. It can't be forged, don't you see? They can't forge his fingerprints.
Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Van Norton, but I have no authority
You've
to
got
say...
to. I tell you, there's a stranger in my house. He's posing as my foster brother. There's $1 million involved.
Just a minute, Helen, please. It's most important, Mr. Robbins, not only because of the money involved. Miss Van Norton is extremely upset.
Well, of course, Mr. Chadwick, but you see, I can't simply turn over material like this.
I'll make the necessary arrangements with the FBI, Mr. Robbins, and get your authority from Washington. Will that be satisfactory?
Oh, quite, Mr. Chadwick. Quite.
Hello, Ted.
Well, Helen, I began to wonder where you were all afternoon.
Oh, downtown shopping. Stores are frightful these days.
Indeed they are.
Reading?
Yeah.
How's Dick Tracy?
Oh, haven't checked him today.
Funny. You used to read Dick Tracy before you even looked at the headlines.
I guess a guy gets a little serious after all those years overseas. Prison camp, hospital.
Yes, I suppose so.
You're looking calmer today. Finally decide on the real thing?
I want you to forgive me, Ted. It's so unbelievable that I don't quite trust my senses anymore.
Sure. You're a good kid, Helen. I don't blame you.
Will you drink on it?
Why not?
What'll it be?
Bourbon and soda.
Oh, you're a man after my own heart.
You know, I'm kind of surprised. I thought you'd be a tougher nut to crack.
Oh? You expected me to be suspicious?
After that episode on the boat, I expected anything.
Oh. Here you are.
Thanks.
What do we drink to?
To us, of course.
All right. To us.
Yes, ma'am?
You're in charge of the fingerprinting department here?
Yes.
I'm Helen Van Norton. I brought in a highball glass yesterday afternoon with some fingerprints on it.
Oh, yes. That's the one you wanted us to check against the prints on the State Department application file.
That's right.
Where did you get that glass?
A man is posing as my brother, staying at my house. They're his fingerprints.
You're sure of the prints on the application?
What do you mean?
Are you sure they're the bona fide prints of your brother?
Of course. I was with him in Washington when he completed the application in 1938. I saw him put the prints on it.
I see. Well, that ought to settle it once and for all.
What do you mean?
The man at your house is your brother, Miss Van Norton. The prints are identical.
It can't be. It can't.
We wouldn't commit ourselves if we weren't positive.
I see. Of course. Oh, thank you.
Well, Helen, that settles it, doesn't it? You're beaten and you know it. And worst of all, you're not at all sure of yourself anymore. Yes, that's the unbearable part. Not knowing in your mind whether you're right or wrong. But you still have one more out. Just one. It's a long chance, but you've decided you have to take it. To decide once and for all whether or not this man Ted is your foster brother. Whether you can trust your own mind. It's very late that night when you get quietly out of bed and walk downstairs to the telephone. The house is as quiet as a tomb. Everyone's asleep.
Long distance.
I want to call Shanghai operator. Mr. C.S. Julian, 28 Perlang Drive, Shanghai.
Just a moment, please. Mr. C.S. Julian.
Yes.
28 Perlang Drive, Shanghai.
There will be a delay. Will you wait?
Yes. Yes, I'll wait.
Here's your party. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Hello?
Is this Mr. Julian?
Who is calling, please?
I last talked to you in April 1941. The name I gave you was Grayson. Do you remember that?
Why are you calling?
Do you remember me?
Of course I remember you. You called concerning a man, Mr. Van Norton, as I remember. He was in Manila.
Do you know what became of him?
He was killed in an accident in May of 1941.
You're positive?
Positive.
Thank you, Mr. Julian. Thank you very much.
The Whistler will return in just a moment with a strange ending to tonight's story. Meantime, a word of wisdom to Mr. Average Driver. You spend well over $100 a year for gasoline. That's a lot of money. You'd like to be sure it's buying the gasoline that's tops in quality, the gasoline that gives you top performance from your car. Well, you can be sure if you just keep 2 points in mind when you buy gasoline. 1, it takes extra quality to go farther. And 2, Signal is the famous Go Farther gasoline. After all, the only way any gasoline can put more thrilling performance into your car is by helping your motor run more efficiently. And when your motor runs more efficiently, naturally you get better mileage. So there you have it in a nutshell. The reason why Signal's good mileage is so important to you. And the reason Signal says, to be sure of the tops in gasoline quality, there are just 2 things to remember. 1, it takes extra quality to go farther. And 2, Signal is the famous Go Farther gasoline. And now back to the Whistler.
It was a relief to know, wasn't it, Helen? You can trust your own senses now. Ted is dead. Mr. Julian just told you so. And the stranger in the house is an imposter. Somehow, some way you can prove it. But right now, you don't want to think about it anymore. It's been too bewildering. All you want now is your bed and the first good night's sleep in a week. You put down the phone and start toward the stairs.
Sit down, Helen.
How long have you been here?
Long enough. I said sit down.
I'm going upstairs.
Sit down before you fall down. That's it. You just hung yourself, baby. There's a record of that phone conversation down at FBI headquarters.
What are you talking about?
You didn't have Shanghai, in case you're wondering. You were talking to the boys down at the office. Not Mr. Julian. We had everything, you see, except the link you just gave us. We knew Mr. Julian paid $10,000, part of the money you sent him. One of his boys in Manila. The boy who killed your foster brother, Ted.
But
I was the only one who knew. I was detained over there in a prison camp, like I said. It was a long wait. I knew Ted had a foster sister, and I knew there was close to $1 million in it somewhere. But all I had was a suspicion.
what about Julian?
The authorities in Shanghai have him.
Well, I guess there's nothing much I can do.
Tough, isn't it? You could have been a nice kid. You weren't a killer at heart. You shouldn't have picked out someone in the State Department. Oh, it took us a long time to work it out. A lot of names, a lot of people. We even drew on the services of Mr. Rigby. When we got going, we knew you'd crack, sooner or later.
Who are you?
This time, baby, I'm telling you the truth. I was your brother's best friend. My name's McKay. Oh, and incidentally, I'm with the FBI.
Let that whistle be your signal for the Signal Oil program, The Whistler, each Wednesday night at this same time. Brought to you by the Signal Oil Company, marketers of Signal gasoline and motor oil and fine quality automotive accessories. Signal has asked me to remind you, to get the most driving pleasure, drive at sensible speed, be courteous, and obey traffic regulations. It may save a life, possibly your own. Featured in tonight's story were Virginia Gregg and Gerald Moore. The Whistler was produced and directed by George W. Allen, with story by Harold Swanton and Mark Smith, and music by Wilbur Hatch, and was transmitted to our troops overseas by the Armed Forces Radio Service.
The Signal Oil Program. Yes, the Signal Oil Program. The Whistler. That whistle is your signal for the Signal Oil Program, The Whistler.
I am the Whistler, and I know many things, for I walk by night. I know many strange tales hidden in the hearts of men and women who have stepped into the shadows. Yes, I know the nameless terrors of which they dare not speak.
Friends, here's some exciting news. The latest Hooper ratings show that in the last 2 months, the listening audience of The Whistler has increased by more than 50%. Yes, sir, 50%. And even before this increase, The Whistler was rated tops in popularity for a longer period of time than any other West Coast program in radio history. What do we at Signal Oil think about this? Well, naturally, we think it's wonderful. And we want to say thanks to our regular audience and welcome to all you new listeners. And remember, friends, Signal gasoline is tops, too. And now, The Whistler's strange story. Ticket to Paris.
The young, attractive, dark-haired girl looked out through the dirty window pane of the old bookshop, watched the rain as it fell on Olive Street. Then, a few minutes after 10, she locked the shop door, turned out the light, and stood for a moment in the darkness. She rubbed her arms and shuddered, and then hurried through the darkened bookstore. She would always live in terror of the dark, of even the next moment, so long as one man remained alive, the man who was living only to kill her. She'd been forced into the back streets of obscurity to escape him. And though she despised this grim little bookshop where she worked for the old woman named Hattie Simmons, the job paid for her keep, provided her with more safety than she could find anywhere else. As she reached the door to a room in the back of the shop, she stopped and listened. There was someone in the room, searching in the darkness. She threw open the door and switched on the lights.
Oh, hello, Madeline. Hattie, what are you doing here in my room? I couldn't sleep, and this old rocker here is so comfortable, I thought I'd come in and sit a while. Oh, my, it's comfortable. You don't mind, do you, dearie? No, I don't mind. It's the storm, I suppose. It makes me so restless.
Hattie.
Yes, dearie?
My trunk. I'm certain I had left it closed.
Oh, that. Well, you see...
The wine bottle is in the cupboard. Help yourself.
Well, now, I don't like to pick up the habit, mind you, but seeing that I can't sleep...
Perhaps these would be better for you.
Oh, the sleeping tablets. Yes, I was looking for them.
The box was here on the table.
Dear me, my eyes, you know.
Here you are.
Madeleine, it always struck me kind of queer, a young girl like yourself taking so many of these pills.
They're harmless.
Yes, I suppose. But you always seem to have so much on your mind, dearie.
Yes, I have many things on my mind, Hattie.
Yes. Madeleine?
Yes?
While I was looking for sleeping pills, I noticed your name on the trunk. Didn't think Portier was spelled that way.
Portier.
P-R-T-I-E-R.
Oh. I couldn't help but notice something else, dearie. Inside the trunk. A gun.
Of course I have a gun. During the war, many French women had guns. We had to have them.
Yes, I suppose. I was just wondering, how come you've got a German gun?
Hattie, why don't you take the pills and go back to your room? I'm very tired.
All right, Madeline. You close up the shop all right?
Yes, it's locked.
Never know when we might have thieves, you know. Good night, dearie. Have a nice sleep.
You watch Hattie waddle out the door. And when she's gone, you hurry to the bureau. From the top drawer, you take out a folded newspaper. And for the 100th time, you stare at the photograph on the front page. The photograph of a man in a Nazi uniform. Over it is the name Heinstadt and a question mark. Next to it is another photograph. A young, smiling American correspondent, Alan Tennyson, recently home from Europe. You slip the newspaper into the pocket of your raincoat and hurry out of your room into the shop. And then as you open the front door...
Hiya, Frenchie.
Oh, you frightened me. What are you doing here, George?
Can a guy come around to see his old aunt once in a while? Huh?
Hattie has gone to bed.
Fine. Really didn't come around to see her anyway.
I'm sorry. I'm going out.
Hey. What's your hurry?
George, please, let me by.
It's raining, baby. Terrible night to be out.
Please.
Much better to stay in. Curl up like a good book. Or something.
Madeline? Madeline, is that you out there?
I thought you said the old goat had gone to bed.
Madeline, what? Oh, it's you. What are you doing here, George?
That seems to be the burning question of the week. Good evening, Aunt Hattie.
Madeline, I thought you were going to bed.
No, I decided to go for a walk.
In this weather, dearie?
Don't worry about me, Hattie. Good night.
A quarter of an hour later, you step off the streetcar, hurry toward the low red brick building in the middle of the block. At the entrance, the doorman greets you.
Good evening, miss.
This is the Sequoian Club?
Yes, it is.
Well, a newspaper man, Mr. Tennyson, is giving a lecture here. Could I go?
Oh, it's over, miss.
Over?
10 minutes ago.
Oh, but Mr. Tennyson, is he still...
No, he left.
But I must see him. It is important.
Well, I think you'll find him across the street at the bar. He was headed in that direction when I saw him last.
The bar? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Here we are. Drink?
No.
Well, if you won't have a drink, what's on your mind?
Mr. Tennyson, there was a story in the paper yesterday about a man, a German named Heinstadt.
Heinstadt? Yeah, that's one of my stories. What about it?
This man they're holding in a palace prison. The French government is not certain he is really Heinstadt.
No, they're not. Plastic surgery is a great thing.
But certainly they're waiting.
They know what they're doing. It'll take a little time. You, sure you won't have a drink?
No.
Well, it's Heinstadt, all right. Look, what makes you so interested in this?
Oh, I am curious.
Yeah, that's been established.
I used to know him.
That's so? When?
During the war in my country when the Nazis occupied Paris.
You speak pretty good English for a mademoiselle.
I was educated in England.
I see. And just how did you and this Heinstadt get along?
Not very well, I'm afraid.
I'm sorry.
You have heard of the Chateau Polonais?
Well, I've been there. It used to be Heinstadt's headquarters in Paris. So?
Well, before the war, I worked at the chateau for a very fine family. Then Heinstadt took over. Only the servants remained. We were forced to work for Heinstadt.
Not very pleasant, huh? Especially for a girl. Pretty one at that.
It was unpleasant for several of us.
So now you'd like to see Heinstadt get what's coming to him.
But first they must be certain it is the right man. There must be no mistake.
Oh, there won't be. But like I said before, it'll take time.
It wouldn't take me to any time. I would know him instantly.
Uh-huh.
Why are you looking at me like that?
You are pretty. Very pretty. Yeah. You look good on the front page.
What? My picture?
My syndicate could use a follow-up story on Heinstadt. French girl tells all. Sinister figure of Paris occupation.
Oh, no,
Think of the publicity, baby. Wouldn't do you a bit of harm. And with the movie studios only a stone's
No,
throw.
I'm not interested.
Well, that's a switch. I was sure that's what you were driving at.
Excuse me, Mr. Tennyson, I must go.
Just a minute.
Please.
What's really on your mind?
Nothing. Nothing at all. Why?
You interest me. There's something about you that's a little different, and I like people who are different. I like to know what makes them tick. In your case, I think I'm going to enjoy finding out.
Yes, Madeline. The thought of your picture in the newspaper, the publicity frightens you, doesn't it? And that's why you ran away from the correspondent named Tennyson, the man you went to for information on the German who is now being held in a Paris prison. You hurry back to the little bookshop, spend a sleepless night wondering if the prisoner is Heinstadt. You wonder, too, about the newspaper man. If he really meant it when he said that he would find out more about you. The next day, find you in the bookshop as usual. And by afternoon, you're convinced you've seen the last of Tennyson, when suddenly a voice behind you...
Pardon me. I'm interested in a mystery called Why Doesn't Mademoiselle Want Her Picture Taken?
Mr. Tennyson.
Hi.
How did you find me?
Let's go next door. We'll talk about it over coffee.
No, I'm alone in the shop. Besides, there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah, you gave me quite a chase last night. Why are you afraid, Madeline?
How did you know?
The cop on the beat said it was Madeline. Madeline what?
Simoneau.
How about Portier?
Mr. Tennyson, what do you want of me?
I want to know why you're so interested in Heinstadt, or the guy they think is Heinstadt.
I told you.
Yeah, but not all of it. So he was a big, nasty character.
All right. The day of the liberation of Paris, Heinstadt was prepared to abandon the chateau. I locked him in a room so the Americans would capture him. He pleaded with me, promised anything if I would let him go. When I refused, he swore he would kill me if he ever got away.
So that's it. And he did break out of there before our boys reached the chateau.
Yes. I knew that as long as he was at large, somewhere in Paris, I was not safe.
I see. So you had to get out of Paris?
Yes. Later, I came to America.
Still don't feel too safe from Heinstadt, huh?
Well, I've heard that a few Germans have been able to sneak into this country, and it's possible
And Heinstadt may be here now. Any publicity about you would lead him right to your doorstep.
That's right. You see, Mr. Tennyson, why it's so important to me that I find out if that man in the Paris prison is really Heinstadt.
Sure. Well, I'm not going to twist your arm. We'll just forget the story.
Mr. Tennyson, you have contact with these things. Perhaps you will let me know when word comes. When the man is identified?
Yes, I'll do that. I'll let you know.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The days pass slowly, don't they, Madeline? And Alan Tennyson doesn't call. You wonder what is causing the delay, why the French authorities can't make up their minds about the man in prison. Perhaps you tell yourself the government has decided the man isn't Heinstadt, and that the matter has been quietly shelved. Yes. And if that's the case, the man who has sworn to kill you is still at large, perhaps right here in Los Angeles. You become increasingly nervous as the days go by, and then finally there's a telephone call from Tennyson. He sounds urgent. Asked you to meet him at the bar where you met before.
Oh, Madeline, over here.
Oh, yes. Come on, time, Mr. Tennyson.
Oh, you are. Sit down here.
Thank you.
Oh, waiter, champagne. The ladies here.
Champagne.
It's an occasion, Madeline.
Wait, you have something to tell me. Please don't keep me in suspense.
Listen, for you.
April in Paris. Mr. Tennyson,
wait. There's still the champagne. Been in this bottle since 1922. There you are, sir.
Oh, Mr. Tennyson, please tell me.
We'll drink to it, Madeline. Your glass. The wire came this afternoon. That man in prison.
He was Heinstadt.
Yes, not a doubt in the world.
Oh,
Faye, we're going to force him to stand trial, but...
He didn't escape again.
No. He's dead. Swallowed poison.
Oh, no.
Oh? Delight or remorse?
Well, in winning, we can afford some sympathy for the loser.
Yeah. I guess it's only you.
But, oh, I'm so happy now, Mr. Tennyson. Drink. Drink the champagne. To Paris. The Paris I love.
To the Paris you love, Madeline.
Yes, Madeline, you're eager to celebrate, aren't you? Because this news of Heinstadt's death clears the way for you. Yes. Not just to the Paris you loved, but to the hidden wealth in the cellar of the Chateau Perlinese. Only you know about that, Madeline. Because it was you who hid it there. A fortune, Madeline. Yours now for the price of a ticket to Paris. That's all you need to do. Return and take what belongs to you through your own cleverness. Hurrying back to the bookshop after leaving Tennyson, you're thinking of only one thing. Where to get the money for your ticket. You're so deep in thought that you don't even notice Officer Davies outside the shop. He looks at you concerned.
Miss Madeline.
What? Oh, Officer Davies.
Inside, Hattie and that nephew of hers.
George?
Uh-huh. They're having a Lulu of a fight. I started to go in, but I thought...
I'll take care of it, Officer Davies. It's nothing.
Why not, Hattie? I'm not asking for the moon.
You heard my answer. Now go, George.
You see what I mean?
Sometimes I can wring your neck.
I said go.
All right, I'm going.
George.
Let me by.
But, oh, well.
He's hot-tempered, all right. And if looks could kill.
Excuse me, Officer Davies. I've got to talk to Hattie.
Yeah, sure. I'll be moving along there.
George?
No, Hattie.
Oh, I thought it was that no-good nephew coming back. I was just hiding this strong box. Now, there.
Another quarrel, Hattie?
Yes, over the usual thing, money.
Oh. Hattie.
Yes?
Hattie, I must return to Paris. I had a call. I have to return at once.
Return? Oh, I'll hate to lose you, Madeleine. Come to count on you a lot.
Thank you, but it is very necessary that I go.
Soon?
That depends. I haven't the money for a ticket.
Oh.
I was wondering, well, Hattie, could you lend me the money just for a little while?
Lend you the... Dearie, you know I'm fond of you, but you also know I'm not young anymore. I need what little I have. You must be able to get it somewhere else.
No, I'm not. I don't know anyone else. No one that I could even ask. You can't turn me down, Hattie.
Please, Madeleine. I've had all the squabbles about money that I can stand for one night.
But, Hattie, I will pay
Madeleine,
it.
I said no. Oh. Now, good night, dearie.
She's refused you, Madeline. When you counted on her so much. But it isn't over, is it? No, it can't be. You have to get to Paris, even if it means stealing the money. You'll be able to repay Hattie 3 times over. The following afternoon, the opportunity you've been waiting for presents itself. Hattie leaves the shop. You wait a half hour after she's gone, to be sure she's not just on an errand to the corner store. Then you close the shop, hurry to Hattie's room, and go to the drawer where she's placed the strong box. It's still there. To pick it up, hurry back to your own room, and there you try to force the lock, and then...
Well, sweetheart, we seem to have the same ideas about things.
George.
Yeah, that's right, George. Boy with the key to the front door. I'll take the strong box, baby.
No.
Oh, but yes. Give it to me. And you can tell my dear aunt that she won't be seeing me for some time.
No, George, you mustn't take that box.
Get away from me.
Give me to me, George.
Get away.
He shoves you aside, and you fall in a daze, your head striking lightly against a trunk. You look at it, Madeline. It's your trunk, your own. And suddenly you remember there's a gun inside.
Madeline, put that down.
Give me that box, George. Don't come any closer to me. George, I warn you.
Madeline, you couldn't shoot me.
Madeline.
You've killed him, haven't you, Madeline? And in a flash, you realize that your plans are ruined. You'll never get away with the money now. George's body would be discovered before you can even get out of town. You stand there bewildered, wondering what to do, and then...
Yes?
Madeline?
Mr. Tennyson.
I wonder if I can stop by. I want to talk to you. Say in about an hour or so.
An hour? I don't... All right, Mr. Tennyson. Yes. Do come by.
It's a way out, isn't it, Madeline? A sudden way out that's about to be given to you. A little later, you've unlocked the front door, put the strong box back in its place, and you've turned your room into a shambles, upset the lamps, scuffed the rugs, pulled things from the dresser drawers. When Tennyson arrives and walks in, you're in the middle of it all, aren't you? Yes. Sprawled out, apparently in deep sleep, the gun clutched tightly in your hand.
Madeline, what is it? Wake up.
Mr. Tennyson, no.
Yeah. Is this your gun?
My gun? Yes.
Madeline, what have you done? What's happened here? Did you kill him?
Kill him?
That man behind the screen. His name was Hawley, George Hawley. I looked in his wallet.
George Hawley? He's dead?
You didn't know?
What is it, Mr. Tennyson? What has happened here, the room?
Look, do you remember me calling you a while ago?
Yes? Yes, I remember.
What happened since then? Come on, think hard.
Right after your call?
Yes?
Hattie. She came in.
Hattie?
George's aunt. She owns the shop.
Was he here when she came in?
No. Just Hattie and me. She mentioned him, though. They quarreled again.
Quarreled?
Over money. They were always quarreling over money.
Her money?
George thinks some of it belongs to him. It was left by a relative.
All right, go on. Then what happened?
Nothing much. We had some wine together.
And is that what put you to sleep?
No, I felt sleepy. Like when I take my sleeping pill.
I see. Madeline, where's Hattie now?
I don't know.
Uh-huh. You know something, Madeline? This is all too pat.
What do you mean?
Look at this room. The way things have been tossed around. I don't think there was a struggle here at all.
You don't...
This whole setup is a phony. The room was made to look like there'd been a struggle. This lamp on the floor, it didn't fall. It was placed there. The bookcase, it was pulled from the wall.
Mr. Tennyson,
Look, Madeline, I've been suspicious of you right from the start. You and that Heinstead guy.
But I explained...
I like to do my own explaining, find my own answers. Last night I got to thinking you might have been Heinsted's girlfriend.
His girlfriend?
Yes, he had one, you know. A French girl named Diane Roger.
Diane Roger, but she's dead. She threw herself into the Seine on the night of the occupation.
Yeah, that's the answer your government sent me this afternoon.
Then what you were thinking last night...
Last night doesn't matter, or what I thought then. The important thing now is the dead man behind that screen.
But you do believe me.
Like I said, this whole thing is a little too pat. It's a frame. And Hattie could have framed you.
Hat? She would do this to me.
Look, if you'd have planned to kill George, you wouldn't have tried to do it this way. I think you're a lot smarter than that.
Oh, I'm glad you see it that way.
Uh-huh. I better call the police now.
Thank you, Mr. Tennyson. Thank you very much.
The Whistler will return in just a moment with the strange ending to tonight's story. But now, a message from missing drivers. I mean drivers who are missing something. And that means you, if you're not powering your car with Signal, the famous Go Farther gasoline. One thing you're missing is that good mileage, which has made Signal gasoline known throughout 6 western states, from Canada to Mexico, as the Go Farther gasoline. But equally important, you're missing the superior performance in today's Signal gasoline, which makes such mileage possible. You see, in order for today's Signal to help you get the most from every drop of gasoline, it has to help your motor run more efficiently. And when your motor runs more efficiently, you also enjoy quicker starting, faster pickup, and smoother power. So you see, in gasoline, mileage and performance do go hand in hand. That's why Signal says, to be sure of the tops in gasoline quality, there are just 2 things to remember. 1, it takes extra quality to go farther. And 2, Signal is the famous Go Farther gasoline. And now, back to the Whistler.
You congratulate yourself, Madeline. Your plan seems successful. You're certain you've sold Alan Tennyson on the idea that you were the victim of a plot by Hattie, that she had killed her nephew and had fixed the blame on you. And now it looks like he's going to help you, because he seems convinced of Hattie's guilt. You listen as he calls the police and tells them what's happened. Then he calls his newspaper. Minutes later, he's back in your room, and you notice a strange expression on his face.
Is something wrong?
One of the boys just cabled a story from Paris. The French authorities found a fortune in jewels in the cellars of the Chateau Polonais.
Oh, no.
You seem disappointed. You know, that hunch I had last night, maybe I was right after all. Maybe Heinstedt's girlfriend, Diane Roger, didn't jump in the Seine the night of the occupation. Maybe it was the real Mademoiselle Portier who was pushed into the river. How about that, Diane?
You will never be able to prove it, Mr. Tennant.
No, I guess not. What about the dead man over there, George Hawley?
Hattie tried to frame me.
Madeline? Madeline? Where are you, dearie?
Oh, hello, Hattie. Officer Davis?
How are you, miss?
So, the police found you, Hattie.
Found me? What are you talking about, dearie? I've been with Officer Davis all afternoon. We went down to Long Beach.
Hattie wanted someone to go along with her. Protection, you know. And it was my afternoon off.
Protection?
That's right, dearie. Forget what I said last night. I changed my mind. I decided to go down to the bank where my brother works to get the money you wanted for your ticket to Paris.
Let that whistle be your signal for the Signal Oil program, The Whistler. Each Sunday night at the same time. Brought to you by the Signal Oil Company, marketers of Signal gasoline and motor oil, and fine quality automotive accessories. Marvin Miller speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.